Wishful thinking. It was an hour until closing, and people were still trying to get in the restaurant. Isaac struggled to keep track of the orders from the 5 tables he waited on. Noelle slid past him, her tray loaded with plates of steak and wine. As she walked by, he gave her a kiss on the cheek, making her smile. "Oh, babe, table 12 needs a refill," she said. Isaac nodded and grabbed the pitcher. After all the customers had left and they had got done cleaning, Isaac, Noelle, and Asher gathered their things and skipped out. "Let's grab a drink," Noelle said. Isaac held her hand tight. "Thirsty, turtle?" "Yeah, sounds good," he said. "Wanna come?" "Hell yeah," Asher said. They drove downtown to the bar, the neon signs reflecting off the wet pavement. They waited behind the row of patrons. After getting their drinks, the 3 found one of the few empty tables toward the back. Asher sat down across from his co-workers. "So what do you guys have planned for the weekend?" Isaac looked at Noelle. "Didn't you say your sister is getting married?" "That's next month," she said. "It's crazy because they've only been together a year. We haven't even been together for half as long." She looked over to Isaac. "Yeah, it doesn't even feel like it," he said. He rubbed her hand while Asher noticed something to his right. It was a flyer on the bulletin board beside them. "Open mic night," it read. $20,000 prize, he said. "I know I could use that," Isaac said. Noelle took it down to look closer. "We both could." "You should do it," Asher said. Noelle's mouth widened. I don't know." "He's right," Isaac said. "You're a great singer." "That's a lot, and I've never really sung for competition before. What about you?" She lowered the flyer to look at Asher. "You're better than me." "No, that's not true." "But I'm definitely not ready for that." Back at the apartment, Isaac and Noelle walked past his roommate watching TV and into his room. Once inside, he closed his door and they flopped onto his bed. He smiled, turning to her. "So I wrote a song for you. I thought if you wanted to do the competition, you could use it." "You still write?" "Occasionally." Isaac reached over for his laptop on the nightstand. He opened it to reveal the word document. "I love it. The words are beautiful." Isaac smiled. "I'm glad you like it. It's about you." She arose and picked up the guitar, leaning against the wall. After teaching her the melody, he helped her practice. 5 hours later, they decided to call it a night. She set the guitar aside and the couple went out for a late walk. The breeze brushed across their faces as they walked arm in arm. "I'm so excited," Noelle said. "You got this. We've got 3 months to practice," he said. A month later, the 3 were back at the restaurant, and Isaac had just got on his break. He pushed through the swinging doors of the kitchen, scanning the sea of faces looking back at him. Isaac rubbed his temples as the other staff bustled around. He glanced at the clock on the wall. 15 minutes. "Hey babe, I'm on break. Where you at?" he texted, his eyes searching for her ponytail and black apron. She wasn't by the prep station or slicing lemons near the drinks counter. He frowned and walked toward the server's alley. Isaac saw another co-worker, stacking plates. "Hey Pat, you seen Noelle?" Pat looked up, pausing mid-stack. Yeah, last I saw she was in the back, I think." "Thanks." Isaac turned around and headed back through the crowd toward the rear of the restaurant. He weaved between busboys balancing trays and cooks shouting orders. His steps quickened and he checked his phone again, but no response. "I know she's not on break," he thought. He hesitated, glancing around. Maybe she went to refill something. He backtracked to the storeroom, pushing the door open. Empty. Isaac stopped another co-worker, a dishwasher with water dripping from his gloved hands. "You see Noelle?" The dishwasher shrugged. Isaac's jaw tightened. He held his chin for a moment, his eyes searching the floor. "Thanks," he said. Isaac's shoes squeaked on the tile floor as he crossed the narrow corridor. Only one place left to check: the cooler and supply area. The hum of the refrigeration unit greeted him before anything else. Isaac tucked his hands underneath his elbows as he entered, turning on the light. "Nope." Closing the door behind him, just as he was about to give up, he looked to his right. The exit door had been propped open. What the hell, he thought. Worth a try, he said to himself, taking a peek outside. After hearing voices, he stepped out and walked to them. He recognized Noelle's and picked up his pace. She giggled along with someone else. They were on the other side of the dumpsters, and as he came from around the corner, they were facing away. He stepped closer, watching Noelle. As she leaned against the wall, their friend pressed against her. Isaac's heart rate picked up and he began to grow hot. They smiled, still not noticing him. Her fingers brushed his cheek when she leaned in. When their lips met, Isaac let out a gasp. They snapped their heads toward the noise, eyes widening before pulling away, returning the gesture. Noelle turned at the sound, her face draining of color, her eyes locked onto Isaac's. Asher let his hands and body drift away from hers, and he turned to face them both. Isaac took a step closer. What the fuck is happening? Noelle's lips parted, but no words came. Her hands moved as if to reach for him, but he pulled back, raising his arms. Asher stepped back, glancing down at his shoes, avoiding Isaac's gaze. Babe, I'm so sorry. It just happened. Isaac laughed. How the fuck you just happened to kiss each other? Noelle stepped forward. Baby, listen, I didn't mean for it to happen. Don't come close to me. How you didn't mean for it to happen? How long this been going on for? And you're supposed to be our friend, but you're going behind my back to get with my girl? Asher inhaled, looking away. No, it's not like that, man. Oh, really? Isaac came closer. That's some fuck shit, boy. You a hoe for that. His eyes burned into Asher's, who could only shrug. Isaac took another step forward, clenching his fists before relaxing them. His hands shook. He took a deep inhale, his gaze bouncing between the two, and nodded. You know what? It's not even worth it. Noelle reached for him again. Isaac, please. But he was already turning away and didn't look back. He went back inside, slamming the rear door behind him. The manager looked up as he entered his office. Isaac, what's wrong? She asked. He took a deep breath, not feeling well. Mind if I take the rest of the day off? She paused for a second. I don't know. We're pretty backed up, Isaac. Could you maybe His shoulders slumped, eyes falling to the floor. You know what? Yeah, she said. I'll see you tomorrow. Isaac thanked her and walked out, his eyes burning. The weeks passed as Isaac trudged through his shifts at the restaurant. He avoided Asher and Noelle, their relationship now open. Awkward silence during meetings and forced smiles were now another part of the workday. Isaac stepped outside for some fresh air. It seems these days he couldn't wait to get out of the building. None of the places he applied to had contacted him back, so it looked like he was stuck. His eyes lit up when he thought of something. The competition was just over a month away. But he couldn't sing. Isaac pulled out his phone, pulling up the Thirsty Turtles website. It's an open mic, so anyone could perform anything. There were even comedians. Though he could be funny, Isaac didn't really view himself as a comedian. He sat on the curb and did what he had done since a boy, pulling out his notebook. As Isaac scribbled words, nothing seemed to stick. After 10 minutes of getting nowhere, he returned from his break. Hey! He turned around to see the couple. We were looking for you, Noelle said. He turned back around and continued, but they followed. Please, Isaac, listen. He got back to the computer to clock in as they stood behind him. What do you want? Please don't be mad. I wanted to apologize. We both did, Asher said. I should have been honest. You know that saying better late than never? Isaac asked. They nodded. Yeah, that's bullshit. He got up and faced the people who stood between him and the door. I gotta get to work. Asher stepped aside, but Noelle remained. I really want to talk to you about this. What's there to talk about? You know, so much. I feel terrible. Makes sense. He tried to go around her, but she stepped in front of him. Her eyes began to well. I wanted to ask if I could still use the song you wrote for me. Isaac narrowed his eyes and looked at her. Do whatever you want. He brushed past them and back to work. For weeks, Isaac stared at blank pages in his notebook, the pen in his hand refusing to move. What he did write had little coherency. Each night after his shifts, he would sit at his small desk and try to come up with something while doing his best to ignore the random sounds of gunfire originating from the living room. He'd write a line, then scratch it out. A phrase would come, but it felt forced. How could he have been so blind, he thought. One Sunday afternoon, Isaac realized that the only time he'd been outside was to go back and forth to the restaurant. Grabbing his phone, he hopped in his old Camry, and in no time, he arrived at the park. It was late autumn, the air crisp and the trees dressed in hues of gold and rust. He took a deep breath, feeling the sun on his skin. The sounds of children laughing and dogs barking filled the air. He sat on a bench near the duck pond with his notebook, watching the ripples spread as the birds glided across the water. People strolled by, some hand in hand, others chatting. Isaac tapped the notebook with his pen and sighed. After looking down at it for a few moments, he looked back up. A couple sauntered along the path in front of him. The white-haired man leaned on a cane while the woman, whose face wore 1,000 wrinkles, held his free hand. Without saying a word, they walked. As they approached, the couple looked at Isaac, nodded and smiled before continuing on their way. Isaac's gaze followed them, and somehow hope replaced his despair. That's what I want, he thought. He pulled out his notebook and began to write as fast as he could to keep up with his thoughts. Time passed, and he felt a pain in the back of his neck appear and increase. His hands were growing numb. He pulled his face, which was 6 inches from the paper, away and looked around. How long had he been here? After arriving back home, Isaac continued to work on the poem, finishing a week later. The evening of the open mic night arrived, and the Thirsty Turtle had never seen so much excitement. The stage was set as contestants lingered around the venue. There were singers, poets, rappers, musicians, mimes, and comedians, all vying for the prize. Isaac stood backstage, his heart racing. He clutched his notebook, continuing to go over the words. People tuned guitars, vocal rehearsals, while he tried to block it out. He noticed someone else entering the already crowded room. It was her. Noelle stood near the entrance, scanning the room, her hand touching Asher's arm. Their eyes locked before he looked back down. Moments later, her shoes appeared below him. Isaac, what are you doing here? He continued to scan the paper before looking up. Competing. Really? Like for what? Poem. Oh, that's cool. Can we talk for a second? Isaac's shoulders stiffened. Talk about what? She glanced behind her toward the hallway where Asher had disappeared. I just wanted to wish you luck, that's all. He stared at her for a moment. Thanks. Good luck to you too. Her lips curled and she raised a hand toward him before pulling it back, instead using the hand to motion to his notebook. Well, anyway, I'm sure you'll do great, he nodded. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. I gotta go rehearse, but thank you. She waved before turning and leaving. Isaac exhaled as soon as she left and shook his head. A few minutes later, the bar owner took the stage to welcome the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3rd annual open mic contest at the Thirsty Turtle. These contestants have a chance to win $20,000 based on your vote. So we got an incredible lineup of talented people waiting, so let's get this show started. Let's see, the first one we got is a musician. Give it up for Miss Lagerthy. The audience applauded as a young woman stepped on the stage with her violin. As the night progressed, the performances varied. A mimes act got high ratings, but the comedian after them didn't do so well. Isaac watched, wishing he had been one of the first to perform, but he signed up too late. A few acts later, the owner came back out to introduce the next. And now, please welcome Noelle and Asher with their song, Love Can't Wait. Noelle and Asher held hands while walking to the stage. Isaac's hand froze mid-air. He blinked, sure he had misheard. His gaze snapped up. The spotlight illuminated the couple. Asher held his guitar. His stomach dropped. He gripped the edge of his chair, his pulse hammering in his ears. Isaac's mind raced. He's singing the song too? That was for you, he said under his breath. A hot wave of anger surged through him. His hands balled as he stood glaring at the stage. Noel began to sing the words to him, and him to her, the words he wrote for her. The audience went on mute and swayed. At least they like it, he joked. Some whispered to each other, nodding. As the song reached its crescendo, Noel and Asher locked eyes, their voices rising. When the final note rang out, they kissed and the room erupted into applause. People leapt to their feet, whistling and cheering. Isaac shook his head. The owner ran onto the stage. "Oh my God, I can't believe what I just heard. What an incredible performance. Let's give it up again for Noel and Asher. And remember, get your votes in." "That's the best I've heard all night," someone said. Isaac turned and left, maneuvering around all the people applauding. As he sat in the backstage area, he considered calling it a night. They were the favorites. And what if he gets booed? Half an hour later, Isaac paced the room. He was the last one. I can't believe it, he thought. Most of the other performers were now in the crowd. He rehearsed the poem 15 times that night. As he began the 16th, a woman entered. "Isaac?" "Yeah, that's me." "Okay, you're up in 2. Isaac gave a thumbs up before she closed the door. 30 seconds later, he heard the owner. "And now, please, welcome to the stage, Isaac Carter." "What?" Isaac said. His eyes darted, pressing a hand to his chest and nearly dropping his phone. His eyes widened as the woman pushed the door back open, running back in. "Come on, let's go. It's time." "You said 2 minutes." "I know, but we gotta go. Are you ready?" "I guess I have to be," Isaac said. He walked behind her, realizing, and through the narrow hall to the stage. His fingers trembled and stomach flipped. Once on stage, the room seemed to expand and contract all at once, the applause rolling toward him like a wave. His knees were stiff and shoulders rounded. The performers around him clapped, but he barely registered their faces. He caught sight of Noel and Asher seated near the front. They gave him a faint smile as he tried to remember the first words. He adjusted the mic stand, the metallic squeak cutting through the hush, before lifting his gaze to the audience. Isaac let the silence linger for a moment before beginning. "This is a poem called Wishful Thinking." Every eye fixated on him. Isaac paused for a moment and began. "I want a true love, a new love, that got everybody talking, that who's who love, that whatever happens, we gonna make it through love, that whatever happens, I'm the one that you love. A love that won't dissipate as time passes, someone that sees right through my mind like wine glasses, that after sex glow that'll leave my mind scattered, and after sex, no, we go together like rhyme patterns. No, we go together like cuddling on the 14th of February. Yes, I may smoke more weed than necessary, but do I, when society tries to force me to just get married and settle? To dig out of a hole, I had to carry this shovel and fix myself first. I had to figure out why myself hurts in order to get to a place where I could claim self-worth, thinking of a time where I only felt hurt, but thankfully now, I see the horizon. I want a woman where, when we would collide, it's like the sea in the skies mixed with freedom inside it. What you need to realize is go for what you want. Forget a reason. For instance, I want someone for the hot girl summers and the cuffing seasons. Sometimes I look at love and wonder even, does it exist? Why, of course, some would insist, but why every time I shoot, I'm hitting nothing but bricks? I swear sometimes I feel like saying I'm done with this shit. Maybe I'm meant to be alone forever and this is as fun as it gets. But that shouldn't stop me from dreaming, and no, I don't suck at life. It's just sometimes you gotta keep believing. If wrong, such is life. Sometimes I ask, what is life? It's like I'm watching from the nosebleeds. Will true love ever come? Yes, I'm far from knowing if it will, but I can say for sure I've been hoping. I'm done playing games, so I guess we'll start an OT, but seems useless, like driving a Ferrari at slow speeds. Will I ever find my better half like Thor and Loki? And is there really more to love than a heart emoji? This vest protects me from heartbreak, so I rip apart the old seams looking for love in LA, dodging barbs in those queens, wondering if the angel in this city I see is Cupid. Through its cold heart and both wings, I see Hollywood stars and low beams shining on the concrete, illuminating the cars on the road the rose sees. I know you're like, that's beautiful, but what does bro mean? An angel in the city? I mean, where's the road lead? I'll break it down. Everything started, falls apart. I missed the road because I was focused on all the stars. What I thought was an angel turned out to be Satan, and the relationship I thought we had turned out to be vacant. It's true that everything fine ain't the finest, and everything that shine ain't a diamond. Still, as far as love, I can't wait to find it. And if my clock's ticking, I guess I'll wait beside it. Yeah, I feel my patience dying and can't decide who to trust. And if love is truly blind, then I guess that makes two of us. The room stood, erupting into applause. After seeing they were the only ones seated, Noel and Asher arose and clapped. Isaac smiled and took a bow. As he stepped off the stage, the owner shook his hand. Wow, now that was beautiful. Thank you, Isaac. Isaac nodded, arriving at the bottom of the steps, shaking hands with the others. As the other contestants congratulated him, the owner began. Ladies and gentlemen, please, may I have your attention? Everyone quieted and looked up at the stage. So the people have spoken and we have the votes in. I gotta say it was a close one. The crowd murmured and looked around. And the winners are... Isaac felt like he held his breath. Noel and Asher. The audience went wild. Noel and Asher made their way to the stage. He held her hand as they climbed the stairs. Two of the bar's employees also came out from behind the curtain and stood beside the owner, holding a large check. As they accepted the $20,000 prize, Noel stepped up to speak. First of all, I want to thank everyone for this incredible opportunity. And a special thank you to Isaac for writing the song we performed tonight. Everyone looked as she pointed. He forced a smile and gave a nod. After the ceremony, Noel and Asher were escorted off the stage only to be congratulated again by the audience. They smiled widely with each step and mingled with the others. Isaac made his way to the bar. After waiting 5 minutes, he ordered a Jack and Coke. As he waited, someone tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around to see a woman standing behind. Oh, sorry, they're getting mine now, he said. Oh no, I'm Helen, she said. They shook hands, hers softer than he had thought. I'm with a music production company. I loved your poem. Is it also true that you wrote that song? Yeah, it took me a while. That's so impressive. Who do you work with? At a restaurant, he said. No, you don't have an agent or anything? No, never really thought of getting one. What? We're always looking for talented writers. I'd love to hear some more of your work. Do you have anything else? Yeah, I used to write all the time, now just occasionally. She pulled out her phone. Here, take my number. I'm really interested in hearing more. After they exchanged numbers, Isaac smiled. If you're free, do you want to go across the street to grab something to eat? I heard they have great tacos. I was going to head there after this drink anyway. She looked at him, then around the room. I could use a bite and a drink, she said. The bartender arrived with his drink. Hey, thanks. Could I also get... Isaac looked at Helen. She smiled, taking a step forward and stood beside him. Tequila sunrise, she said. Tequila sunrise, he told the bartender, nodding. After they had their drink, they walked out of the venue. Isaac caught a glimpse of Noel watching them leave from across the room. For a moment their eyes met, but she turned away. Yeah, he lost, he thought, but he may have won. Who knows? Wishful thinking.